Hey, this is Nicole Kelly, host of Loud and Proud. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise, here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about positive mindsets, uplifting content that just helps you improve your life overall. A new show comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in podcast version, or you can catch me live on the Public House Media Facebook page every weekday or morning around 6:45 Central Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcasts on Public House Media.
How's it going, everybody? This is Film Session with Hoehne
and D-WICZ.
And we are very happy to be joining you for what is our fourth episode of this fantastic phenomenon of a podcast.
And this phenomenon is just taking the world by storm, or if not the world, possibly the Midwest.
We're a train on the tracks, and you know what? We just keep rolling. You can't stop us. We're like that movie. What is it?
Not 310 to Yuma.
Not 310 to Yuma. It's the other one. With Denzel Washington.
Oh, that's, oh my God, I know what you're talking about. For some reason, I want to say the Pelham.
Nope.
Thinking of Pelham. Oh my Lord.
Nope, because that is also the one. That's also the train one with Denzel Washington. I think that Denzel Washington's done at least 2 train movies. The other one was Unstoppable. We are like unstoppable with Denzel Washington. We're just a train on the tracks, and we're not stopping, filled with nuclear explosives.
Good luck trying to stop us.
Can't do it. Anyways, once again, this is Film Session with Hoehne and D-WICZ.
Yo.
We're happy to be joining you. And if you're unfamiliar with the show, give you a quick rundown. We like to talk sports, and we like to talk movies and TV and everything Hollywood. So we try to bridge the gap between those two and make a connection to try to help people that don't understand sports necessarily, but also love movies, because everybody loves movies.
Mm-hmm. That's a true fact there.
So the people that don't like sports kind of help bring them into the sports world by comparing sports to the film industry the best way we can.
We're just 2 average Joes. We like talking about anything and everything. You want sports? We got it for you. You like movies? We got that for you. We're in no way, shape, or form critics or experts, but you know what? We like to give the good average Joe outside view of anything and everything going on.
So let's start with the good old average Joe point of view of a Packer fan and a Bear fan. I'm obviously the Packers. You are the Bears.
The Bears.
And you know what? The Packers just don't look too terrible right now. Now, obviously, I'm biased because I'm a Packer fan.
That you are.
But they just don't look too awful at the moment. And there's still a very possible chance of them making the playoffs if they can win more games than they lose. Throughout the stretch, the conference, the division is still not all that great. The Vikings definitely have the capabilities of losing. And the Packers are still in it, not looking just too bad. They had a great cushion to work off of when Aaron Rodgers went down. The Packers, I believe, were 4-1 at the point when Rodgers went down. So they did have a cushion. They lost those 3 straight when Brett Hundley first started, but they still have a fighting chance. And the Bears are kind of limping to the finish line.
I wouldn't even call it limping right now. And as a true Bears fan, I have to tune out everything that a Green Bay Packers fan says. It's in our nature.
I think I'm a pretty fair critic. I'm not saying the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
You have had your high and mighty of winning the division and everything else going on about it. You have to stoop down to the level of a Bears fan, and you just have to just complain about anything and everything. And obviously, the start of the year wasn't that great. We bring in, our rookie quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, who we drafted in the first round, second pick, And, first couple games looked a little shaky, but, he's starting to get better. He's improving, and that's only going to take more time and the more reps that he gets onto the field going against these other teams. But it's going to be very, very tough. I don't think with the way that they're playing right now the defense is just it's not going to carry them throughout the rest of the season here, because you're going to need the offense to at least put up some points. So I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Actually, I know, but you'll see some good stepping stones moving on in the next year to see where this Bears team can improve upon and how they can actually get better in the following year.
How many years do you think it takes for them to be a playoff team? You think they can make the playoffs next year with a second year under Trubisky? You think they can make the playoffs, or do you think they're still a 3-year team?
No, I wouldn't even go. I would probably go. I'd go 2 years, give or take. I mean, obviously,
so 2 full years going into the third, or you think next year they can make the playoffs?
2 years going into the third.
Got you.
No, next year there's no way they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, I would be shocked, and they can't pull Los Angeles Rams, and then all of a sudden they're just like they're possibly leading the division and possibly on the verge of making the playoffs and winning the division. I think there's still a lot of holes that need to be fixed with the Chicago Bears. But like I said, we're all not graced with all the glory that you Green Bay Packers have with your cheese and your Miller Lite and God deliciously brats and everything else up there.
It's good to be a Packer fan for all those reasons. You failed to mention the fact that we had 2 starting quarterbacks since 1992, but we'll go with the food.
Yeah, don't rub it in.
No, it's impossible to rub that in, because although the Packers, now we're getting a little bit off topic here, but it's impossible to rub that in because you never knew that you were going to get lucky with Aaron Rodgers. Now, obviously, he was a very good talent in college, was potentially the first-round draft pick, but Alex Smith went before him.
Who's not doing bad either.
No, he's all things considered, Alex Smith has had a pretty successful, outstanding NFL career. Not outstanding, but he's been a solid starting quarterback towards the top of the list his entire career.
He's done just enough to be a successful quarterback.
Yeah. But with Rodgers, you got to give the Packers credit because they picked him up in the first round, knowing full well that they were not going to start him and he would not have a chance of starting for at least 3 years. So they had the foresight to invest at least 3 years into a first-round draft pick that they knew was not going to play up until that point. And if Favre wouldn't have retired at the time that he did and decided to come back for a 4th year, it would have been 4 years.
You know what's crazy is, and you talked about it just right there, about how Aaron Rodgers waited 3 years before he started, after he got drafted. Because obviously, when you're behind Brett Favre, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, you're obviously gonna watch a Hall of Famer, see how he goes about his business and everything.
Yeah.
When you look at the quarterbacks that were drafted this year, when you had Mitchell Trubisky, Deshaun Watson, and they're starting. Deshaun Kaiser was, I think, in the 3rd round by the Cleveland Browns, but they're the Cleveland Browns, so they're obviously going to screw it up. And you have Pat Mahomes, who's still behind, Alex Smith, but you just see this transition now where I think teams are just starting to be a little reluctant and not go through the waiting process of everything. And it's just like, you know what? We like what we have. Throw them out there. Let's see what we got. Because, I mean, with Houston and Chicago, they're starting quarterbacks when they first came in. Definitely not the better option over who you had drafted. And I think you're going to start seeing that more and more, like with, these upcoming, with this year's NFL draft, a lot of teams are going to be QB hungry, and they're going to want their quarterback, and they're going to be like, all right, go out there, save our franchise.
Yeah, and so much pressure is put on a quarterback right off the bat, and so many fans and executives are willing to write off a quarterback or declare the quarterback the next, the second coming of Tom Brady if he has a great season or if he has a bad season.
Hashtag Tommy.
The Browns were looking to sign A.J. McCarron from Cincinnati with the trade, and they didn't even give Deshaun Kaiser a full year. That's how fast the Browns were looking to move on from Kaiser. And I don't think that you're going to have teams being as patient as the Packers were with Rodgers or as patient as the Patriots had been with Jimmy Garoppolo, but they let him go. I don't know why they let him go at this point. They must have thought that Tom Brady has at least 2 more years left, because even if they think Tom Brady has 1 more year left after this, do you forfeit possibly the next 5-6 years for the next year?
As far as drafting a quarterback?
No, with Jimmy Garoppolo, because you think, all right, they hang on to him for maybe 1 more year, which doesn't seem all that awful. You've already had him this long.
Right.
He sat behind Tom Brady. You obviously think he's a great quarterback. So they must have thought that Tom Brady has 2 more years left after this, because for me, the math doesn't pan out where you're going to let him go after all this time just for 1 more year of Tom Brady. They must think Tom Brady has at least 2 more years left.
I have a crazy feeling that he's probably going to be playing into his mid-40s and everything, which honestly, it wouldn't surprise me one bit, but it also comes down to it where, are you willing to keep Jimmy Garoppolo on the bench for, let's say, 2-3 more years? Because, he'd be sitting on the bench for that long. You might as well just, give him a shot elsewhere, because inevitably everyone talks about the Patriot way. That's the Patriot way, regardless. Like, you could be in your prime, and then or you could be wanting a new deal, and it's like, oh, we actually just traded you to a lesser team who is in need of that certain position. And, we hope that Jimmy Garoppolo does well. And from what we saw in his 2.5 game sample size in his still young NFL career, maybe he picks it up and rejuvenates the 49ers again. We'll see how it goes.
All right, D-WICZ, we're going to bring this back to the college football game now, and we're going to bring in the movie references and Hollywood with this, as we do in our show every week. And what I was thinking, as the college football season comes down to a close and the college football playoff committee starts to crank out their rankings, it got me thinking about the Oscars and how the college football playoff committee is like the academy that decides Oscar winners, Oscar losers, who's going to be, in that category in the first place. Because you have your haves and have-nots in college football, and you have your haves and have-nots in Hollywood. And those actors that are in those movies, a certain kind of movie is always going to get an Oscar nod. And that certain coach of a college football team, that certain college football program, is always going to get the benefit of the doubt going into the college football playoff committee selection. So that's where I wanted to bring this, and I'll let you take it on from there.
Well, obviously there's a lot of teams, when you go back to the college football thing, there's a lot of teams that, if they decide to win outright for the rest of their schedule, there could be a possibility of them jumping in. But, no matter how good of a team you are, no matter how well you play on the field, for whatever reason, the committees will always choose the name over, like, your resume and what you've done. If you look at the Oscars, like, you could throw the example with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, his resume and his talent is so good in all the movies that he's been nominated in that he just kept getting overlooked for, best actor in a lot of his nominations, until he basically won his first best actor role for basically fighting a CGI bear, which it looked completely real.
He had to get killed by a bear first.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. So he gets killed by a bear. Badgers both start with a B. So there's a step in the right direction there for all you Wisconsin fans. But you could go through actors, actresses, and even movies. And, when you think of another great actor who, whenever his name gets brought up, like, he is money all the time. And you already know he's going to be winning the Best Actor award. And that is Mr. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
You think of all the movies that he's been in and everything. And whenever he gives a very dramatic and very straightforward approach, 99% of the time he was going to win. Except in 2002, because he lost to Adrian Brody, who was the lead and the pianist, and Daniel Day-Lewis was Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York. And I think at that time, in 2002, everyone was just like, this can't be happening. What is going on? Rawr. Which are both good movies in a way, but I don't know. Gangs of New York just did it for me, and it just had so much more to offer than The Pianist. Which, again, both great movies, but maybe that's a debate for another time, and maybe you all can discuss it elsewhere in your own time.
Well, I think that adds to the conversation and to where we're going with it, because you have the certain movies, if you want to compare movies and movie genres to football programs, you have Alabama. And Alabama is Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood.
Right.
It's a long drama with that marquee actor, and it's always going to get the nod. Always going to get the benefit of the doubt. Alabama always has and will get the benefit of the doubt while they're being coached by Nick Saban, playing in the SEC, winning 10 games a year. A 10-2 Alabama team has a better shot of making the college football playoffs than a 12-0 Wisconsin team.
Right.
And it's nothing against the Badgers, it's just the way it is.
But is it because of the name and the respectability that Alabama has and the trust that the committee can just be like, yeah, you know what, like, we'll just put them in?
It's why Notre Dame always gets the nod whenever they have a semi-good year off the bat. A 5-0 Notre Dame team, regardless of who they play, is in the top 10 because they're Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And it causes for big headlines and a lot of money. That's what it's all about. And, you know, your Alabamas, your Oklahomas, Auburns.
Possibly Ohio State.
USC. All those schools are always going to get the benefit of the doubt while they're having a good year. And even though teams like Wisconsin and, you know, your lesser Oklahoma States, TCUs.
You also have UCF, who nobody even suspects that they're an undefeated team.
Right, and a team like UCF is never going to make that top 4 in the college football playoff.
No.
Never. They might have gotten a BCS bowl game back when they had the bowl games and the BCS bowls.
Right.
But they're never going to get that nod. Washington, they got the college football playoff nod last year, and they did nothing for themselves, getting absolutely destroyed. And so when we're talking about the college football playoff and teams like Alabama and those guys that are always going to get the benefit of the doubt because they are the haves, and you have the have-nots in Hollywood, or at least what appear to be the have-nots in Hollywood, and that is always, when it comes to be Oscar time, it's always a comedy, you know, and comedies never win. They'll never win Best Picture because it's all about what makes you think and how is this movie going to change our lives, and nobody really feels that a comedy is ever going to do that. And the biggest snub that a lot of people had an issue with for Oscars recently was Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds, because everybody loved Reynolds in Deadpool. They thought it was a great movie, and he did a great job. And a lot of people wanted that in the conversation, and it really wasn't. And it's because Deadpool is the Wisconsins of the world. They're the Wisconsins of college football. They're the Washingtons of college football, where the record looks good, the team looks good on paper and in the highlights, but when it comes down to it, Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds is not There Will Be Blood and Daniel Day-Lewis, and Wisconsin and a 10-0 record is not Alabama with a 10-0 record. And that's where I think we have that similarity.
Right. I totally agree. And it's funny, as you were mentioning that, I was looking online, and they had all these different links for, you know, the all-time Oscar award snubs, and there was one. It had a bunch of different actors and everything who've been snubbed over the years, and I mentioned him briefly. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio, who, I mean, he's been, you know, you look at what he's been nominated for: Catch Me If You Can, Shutter Island, Revolutionary Road, Django Unchained. Also, Wolf of Wall Street, and then again, he finally wins after getting mauled to death. Well, it's not really a spoiler alert, is it, for those that haven't seen The Revenant?
Hey, it's been out for a while. If you haven't seen it by now, go see it.
He beats a CGI bear, and then you have, and this was also interesting too. Judy Garland. Apparently, she didn't win at 17 years old. Who would have figured that? But yet, she could still date Frank Sinatra. I think that was a story.
Judy
back
Garland
in the day.
dated Frank Sinatra?
I think so. Nice. Take that, TMZ. Jamie Foxx also on here, who was he was nominated for Best Performance at the 2013 Academy Awards for Django Unchained, which is, you know, another great movie. And you said you're not really a big Quentin Tarantino fan.
But that's one of those movies. That's why Jamie Foxx didn't win. That's why Leonardo DiCaprio didn't win, because it might get nominated, but it's not going to win because it's a movie filled with a ton of fake violence. And
so then were you a fan of Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a fan of those movies. I'm not a big Quentin Tarantino fan, but I thought those movies were great. But those movies are never going to win an Oscar.
That's true. That's
You
true.
know?
Is it just because, like you said, of the fake violence and everything, and just like that sort of style, almost like comedy, or
There was nothing groundbreaking or out of this world, earth shattering about the movie. Good movie, yeah. Star-studded, yeah. But
it just felt more like an action movie, but
Right,
like an action comedy.
right, it's for and that's the movies that win. It always seems to come down to the art or the story associated with it. You see, Daniel Day-Lewis didn't win for Gangs of New York because Gangs of New York is a story, and The Pianist is an historical account of the Holocaust and World War II.
But Gangs of New York was also on history, though.
It was history, but it was a fake story about history. The Pianist is a historical account of a major event in world history,
Right.
and that's always going to beat out pure entertainment. And the history of Alabama and Oklahoma and all these other schools are going to beat out that entertainment factor of a team like Washington last year that is just having a great year.
I agree. You left me speechless there. I was trying to think of something there, but like picture the movie in my head about what quote I can think of, and like I just remember like one quote that I somehow remember throughout the entire like 2.5 hour movie. And I'm going to try to do my best, Daniel Day-Lewis.
So this is what you were thinking about when I was talking.
This is basically...
I'm trying to do the show here.
This is basically what I'm thinking about with Gangs of New York, and I'm probably going to watch it later. So here we go. My Oscar Best Actor performance.
You know this from heart?
From Bill the Butcher. Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's hear it.
You see this knife? I'm going to teach you to speak English with this knife.
That's pretty good.
Thank you. Submit my ballot into the Best Actor Guild. I'm out.
It took you that long to remember that line, huh?
Yes. Yes. You know, I get nervous. I should have been an actor. Somewhere in my line, or maybe in my previous life, I was an actor.
That was a pretty good accent, though.
Thank you.
D-WICZ is pretty spot on with his accents. We're gonna have to do more of these. Maybe I'll do interviews of Hollywood stars with D-WICZ filling in, see how well he can do with that.
Probably not great, but you give me a couple of stiff drinks, I can probably pull some out.
See if D-WICZ can encompass the glory of Bill the Butcher in a full 30-minute interview sometime.
Man, it's a lot of pressure. I hope Daniel Day-Lewis isn't a fan of this show.
No, he listens.
Oh, does he?
He listens on Public House Media every single day.
They're fantastic.
Public House Media is great. We've got to touch on them for a second. The show is coming to you from Public House Media, and they provide the platform for us to do this show, and they do it great. You can catch it on iTunes, on Stitcher, and on the website itself. So check out Public House Media, obviously on the Facebook page as well. There's a show for everybody. There's something for everybody.
Yeah, big shout out to Baxter, Colburn, and the team there at Public House Media. I mean, without them, we would not have had this opportunity to start up this podcast and just bring the listeners out there just fun and a different variety about, you know, the sports and film, and the way we sort of bring this out to anybody that's listening. So a big thanks to Public House Media for giving us support. And like Keith said, they're all over social media. Check them out. There's a little bit of something for everybody out there. So
right.
Hit them up.
And we all have a voice. That's the whole concept. We all have a voice. We all have a passion, and they're allowing us to share our passion with all of you. So thank you to Public House Media. And that will do it for this week of Film Session with Hoehne
and D-WICZ.
And we will see you again next week. Take care.
Take care, everybody.